My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 26 years old. I grew up with my older sister, Olivia. She's 29 and has always been the star of the family. She's beautiful, popular, and, most of all, rich. Ever since we were kids, Olivia loved to show off. She always had the newest clothes, the best shoes, and the latest phone. Meanwhile, I had to save every dollar just to buy something nice for myself. Our parents weren't rich, but Olivia found a way to marry into money. Her husband, Jake, came from a wealthy family, and since their wedding, Olivia never let me forget that she was better than me. "You should really try harder, Emily," she would say with a fake smile. "It's sad to see you struggling all the time." I tried to ignore her. I worked hard at my job and saved as much as I could. But no matter what I did, Olivia always found a way to put me down. One day, she came over to my small apartment, looking as perfect as ever in her designer dress. She tossed her expensive purse onto my couch and smirked. "You're going to be so jealous, Emily," she said. "Jake and I are going on a luxury vacation with some friends. 5-star hotel, ocean view, spa, the works. Oh, but I didn't book a room for you. You understand, right? It's just, well, this place isn't really for people like you." She laughed, as if she had just told the funniest joke in the world. I felt my hands tighten into fists, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had a secret, one she didn't know about yet. So I just smiled. "That's okay, Olivia. I hope you have a great time." She rolled her eyes, grabbed her purse, and left, still laughing. What Olivia didn't know was that the hotel she had just booked, I owned it, and she was about to find out in the most unexpected way. A few months ago, my life changed in a way Olivia never expected. While she was busy showing off her expensive handbags and spa days, I was working hard and making smart moves. I had invested in a few small businesses and saved every dollar I could. Then, out of pure luck and timing, I had the chance to buy something big, something life-changing. The Grand Haven Resort. It wasn't just any hotel. It was a 5-star luxury resort on the coast, famous for its celebrity guests, oceanfront suites, and world-class service. When the previous owner decided to sell, I made my move. It was risky, but I had done my research and my investments had paid off. The moment I signed the papers, I became the owner of one of the most exclusive hotels in the country. The best part? Olivia had no idea. I never told her about my success because I knew her too well. If she had known, she would have found some way to ruin it or belittle me like she always did. So, I stayed quiet, waiting for the right moment. And now, that moment had arrived. She had booked a stay at my hotel, thinking she was walking into another luxury experience where she could look down on others. But this time, things would be different. As soon as she left my apartment, I picked up my phone and called my hotel manager, Mr. Collins. "Hello, Miss Carter," he answered in his usual professional tone. "How can I help you?" "Olivia Carter and her friends have a reservation at the hotel this weekend," I said. "I want to make sure she gets a special experience." There was a short pause. "Of course, ma'am. Special how?" I smiled to myself. "Let's just say, I want to make sure she never forgets this trip." Mr. Collins chuckled. "Understood. I'll handle everything." I hung up, feeling a mix of excitement and satisfaction. Olivia had spent her whole life looking down on me. But now? She was about to learn that life has a funny way of turning the tables. The day finally arrived. Olivia and her friends were heading to Grand Haven Resort for their luxury getaway. I sat in my office on the top floor, overlooking the ocean. The view was breathtaking, but I was more interested in what was about to happen downstairs. I had asked Mr. Collins to send me a message the moment Olivia checked in. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Mr. Collins, they've arrived." I smirked and walked over to my private balcony, sipping my coffee. I could already imagine Olivia walking into the grand lobby, expecting to be treated like royalty. I had planned this moment carefully. Olivia's reservation was still in place, but I had made a few adjustments. I strutted into the hotel with my best designer sunglasses on, my heels clicking against the polished marble floors. The lobby was stunning. Gold chandeliers, sleek furniture, a massive fountain in the center. It was exactly the kind of place I deserved. See, girls? I only book the best, I said, flipping my hair as my friends nodded in agreement. We walked up to the front desk, where a well-dressed man greeted us with a polite smile. Welcome to Grand Haven Resort, he said. Do you have a reservation? I rolled my eyes. Obviously. Olivia Carter. Penthouse suite. The man tapped on his computer, scanning the screen. His polite smile never wavered, but I noticed the tiniest hesitation before he spoke.
Yes.
Miss Carter, there's been a slight change to your reservation. I frowned. Change? What kind of change? The man remained calm. Unfortunately, the penthouse suite is unavailable. We've placed you in one of our standard rooms instead. My mouth fell open. Standard room? You must be joking. I assure you, it's still a beautiful room with all the essential amenities. Essential? I repeated, my voice rising. I don't dupe essential. I paid for luxury. I expect luxury. Behind me, my friends exchanged nervous glances. Would you like to speak to the owner? The man asked smoothly. I crossed my arms. Yes. Get them here immediately. I demand to know why my suite was given away. The receptionist nodded. Right away, Miss Carter. He picked up the phone and spoke quietly into it. I tapped my foot impatiently, feeling my anger rise. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps approaching. I turned, ready to unleash my fury. And then my heart stopped. Walking toward me was my little sister, Emily, wearing a sleek business suit, looking completely in control. And worst of all, smiling. Olivia's face was priceless. Her eyes widened, her jaw dropped, and for the first time in years, she was speechless. Hi, Olivia, I said, stopping in front of her. I heard you had a problem with your room. Her mouth opened and closed a few times, like she was trying to process what was happening. You, what? Why, what are you doing here? She finally stammered. I smiled sweetly. Oh, didn't you hear? I own this place. Silence. Dead silence. Her friends gasped behind her, whispering to each other. Olivia's face turned pale, then red, then pale again. You're joking, she whispered. I shrugged. Nope. I bought the hotel a few months ago. So technically, you're staying at my place? She blinked rapidly, as if she was trying to wake up from a bad dream. No. No, this isn't possible. You're broke. I laughed. Not anymore. Her lips pressed together, and I could see the panic in her eyes. She wasn't in control anymore. I was. So about your room, I said, tapping my chin thoughtfully. I could upgrade you back to the penthouse suite, but I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. I don't think you deserve it. Her jaw clenched. Instead, I'll let you stay in the standard room. Consider it an opportunity to experience how regular people live. Her nostrils flared, but she couldn't argue. She was trapped. Enjoy your stay, Olivia, I said with a smirk before turning on my heel and walking away. Revenge had never tasted sweeter. Olivia stood frozen in the middle of the lobby, her perfectly manicured hands clenched into fists. Her friends were whispering behind her, some looking amused, others uncomfortable. I could tell she wanted to scream, throw a fit, or demand that someone fix this, but there was no one to help her. She was in my hotel now. After a long, tense pause, she finally snapped out of it. With an awkward laugh, she flipped her hair and tried to act unfazed. Well, I guess I'll have to make the best of it, she said, forcing a tight smile. Let's go, girls. She grabbed the key card from the front desk and stormed toward the elevators, her heels clicking loudly against the marble floor. Her friends followed, some of them giggling behind her back. I turned to Mr. Collins, who was watching the whole thing with amusement. Make sure they get the full experience, I said with a smirk. Of course, Miss Carter, he replied. I had never been so humiliated in my life. As soon as I entered the standard room, I wanted to scream. It wasn't bad, but it was nothing compared to the penthouse I had expected. The bed was smaller, the view wasn't as grand, and worst of all, there was no private butler or VIP service. This is ridiculous, I muttered, throwing my designer purse onto the bed. Emily must be lying. There's no way she actually owns this place. Well, it just kind of makes sense, my friend Jessica said hesitantly. She never told us what she's been up to. And if she bought this place, then maybe she's richer than we thought. I whipped around. Emily? Richer than me? Don't be ridiculous. Jessica shrugged. She'd just put you in your place, though. I glared at her. She had been my friend for years, but now I could see the amusement in her eyes. Was she enjoying this? I took a deep breath.
No.
I wasn't going to let Emily win. I pulled out my phone and called the front desk. Yes, Miss Carter? I need a spa appointment, dinner reservations at the finest restaurant, and access to the private beach, I said, regaining my usual tone of authority. Oh, and make sure it's complimentary. I'm family. There was a short pause before the receptionist answered. Apologies, Miss Carter, but complimentary services are reserved for VIP guests. As of now, your status is listed as a standard guest. My grip tightened on the phone. Excuse me? Would you like to pay for the services? The receptionist asked politely. I nearly broke the phone in half. Emily was doing this on purpose. I hung up without answering. This wasn't over. I sat in my office, sipping my tea and watching the security footage of Olivia's reaction. I knew her too well. She wasn't going to give up easily. But I had planned ahead. First, the little inconveniences would continue.
The spa?
Fully booked. The restaurant? A long waiting list. The private beach? VIP only. Second, I had arranged for Olivia to experience something she had never faced before. Humility. As I leaned back in my chair, there was a knock at my door. Come in, I said. Mr. Collins entered with a knowing smile. She's already causing trouble. I smirked. Let's see how long it takes for her to break. Olivia had never experienced rejection before. She was used to snapping her fingers and getting exactly what she wanted.
But now?
Now, she was just another guest at my hotel, and every time she tried to demand luxury treatment, she was met with polite but firm refusals. I had made sure of that. By the second day of her stay, she was already losing it. This hotel was supposed to be my escape, a perfect getaway where I could sip cocktails by the pool, get pampered at the spa, and have everyone admire my perfect life. Instead, it was turning into a nightmare. You're telling me there's no availability at the spa? I asked, my voice sharp. The receptionist gave me the same polite but infuriating smile as yesterday. That's correct, Miss Carter. All appointments are fully booked. However, we do have an opening next week. I clenched my teeth. I won't be here next week. That's unfortunate, she said sweetly. Would you like to be added to the waiting list? A waiting list?
Me?
I huffed and spun around, stomping back toward the pool area. When I reached my lounge chair, I nearly shrieked. Jessica was laughing with two other girls I didn't invite. I recognized them immediately. Claire and Maddie. The kind of rich girls who only associated with winners. And right now, they weren't talking to me. They were talking about Emily. Isn't it crazy? Maddie said, flipping through a magazine. Emily Carter owns this whole place. I had no idea she was so successful. Right? Claire added. She's got such a powerful energy. Honestly, I kind of admire her. Admire? Admire Emily? I stormed over. What's going on? Jessica gave me a guilty look. Oh, hey, Olivia. We were just talking about Emily. I crossed my arms. Why? Claire smirked. Because she's a self-made woman. That's impressive. My stomach twisted. I could feel it happening, my power, my influence slipping away. For years, I had been the important sister. The one with the money, the style, the status. Emily had been the poor little sister. But now, people were looking at her differently. They respected her. They admired her. And worst of all, they didn't care about me anymore. I couldn't let this happen. I had to fix this. I was reviewing some reports in my office when my assistant knocked on the door. Miss Carter, your sister is requesting a meeting with you. I raised an eyebrow. Already? She said it's urgent. I smirked. Of course it is. Send her in. A few minutes later, Olivia walked in, trying to look composed, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. She sat down across from me, folding her arms. All right, Emily. You've had your fun. You got your little revenge moment. But let's be real. You don't belong in this world. I leaned back in my chair, amused. Oh, and what world is that? Olivia narrowed her eyes. The luxury world. The high society world. The world I belong in. I chuckled. You mean the world where you pretend to be powerful, but are actually just living off your husband's money? Her face turned red. That's not true. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, we do, Olivia. What do you own? What have you built? She opened her mouth but hesitated. That silence? That hesitation? That was the moment she realized the truth. I stood up and walked around my desk, leaning against it. Olivia, this isn't a game anymore, I said. You spent years mocking me for being poor, but guess what? I built this on my own. I made smart investments. I worked hard.
And now?
You're standing in my office, begging for me to give you back control. Her jaw tightened. I'm not begging. I smirked. Really? Then what do you want? She exhaled sharply and looked away. I don't get it. How did you do it? For the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Not just anger. Not just jealousy. Confusion.
Doubt.
Maybe even regret. I sighed. You want to know how I did it? I stopped caring what you thought about me. And I stopped waiting for someone to hand me an easy life. You should try it sometime. She sat there, staring at me, her face unreadable. For the first time in years, Olivia had nothing to say. Olivia sat there, her fingers gripping the armrests of the chair like she was holding on for dear life. For years, she had been the queen of our family, the one everyone admired and followed. But now, that crown was slipping, and she knew it. I could see it in her eyes, the panic, the disbelief, the way she was trying to calculate her next move. But for once, she didn't have one. So, I said, breaking the silence. What's next for you, Olivia? Are you going to throw another tantrum, or are you actually going to listen for once in your life? Her lips parted slightly, but she quickly pressed them together. She looked down, something she rarely did. Olivia was used to looking down on people, not away from them. I don't know, she admitted. Her voice was quiet, almost uncertain. I tilted my head. That's a first. She exhaled sharply. Can you stop rubbing it in? I smirked.
Why?
You never held back when it was me. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked away, her jaw tight, her posture stiff. It was the first time I'd ever seen Olivia look small. I sighed. Look, Olivia. I didn't do all this just to humiliate you. I worked hard for this because I wanted more for myself. Not to prove something to you, but to prove something to me. She let out a dry laugh. Well, congratulations. You proved it. You're better than me. I frowned. That's not the point. Then what is the point? She snapped, her eyes flashing. You got rich, you got powerful, and now everyone loves you instead of me. Isn't that what you wanted? I shook my head.
No, Olivia.
I never wanted to replace you. I just wanted you to respect me. Her expression faltered for a moment. All these years, you acted like I was nothing because I didn't have money. Like I wasn't worth your time. But money doesn't make someone better, Olivia. And now, you're realizing that, aren't you? Her hands clenched into fists, but she didn't argue. Because deep down, she knew I was right. I had never felt this way before. For my entire life, I thought money was everything. It was power. It was security. It was the thing that made me better than people like Emily. But now, I was sitting in front of my little sister, the same one I had mocked, ignored, and belittled for years, while she stood over me like she was the queen. And the worst part?
She was.
Not because she had money now, but because she had earned something I had never earned in my life. Respect. From others. From herself. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to look at her. So, what happens now? She raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I shifted in my seat, feeling strangely exposed. Are we just going to hate each other forever? Emily crossed her arms, studying me. Then, To my surprise, she smirked. That depends. Are you finally ready to stop being a spoiled brat? My first instinct was to snap back, but I stopped myself. For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't want to fight. I wanted to understand. I sighed. I don't know how to not be one. Emily chuckled, shaking her head. Well, step one is admitting it. So, congratulations, you're making progress. I rolled my eyes, but this time, it wasn't out of anger. It was different. Lighter. Like maybe, just maybe, this didn't have to be a war anymore. I didn't expect Olivia to change overnight. But for the first time in years, I saw something real in her. Humility. Maybe even regret. I didn't know where we would go from here. But one thing was clear. Our relationship was no longer a game of who was better. It was the start of something new. Something real. And that, more than anything, was the sweetest victory of all.